Welcome to Fair Go, your favourite podcast about building a better tomorrow. A podcast by the people, for the people, where we share small business stories from the business owners themselves. When you encounter unfair obstacles that are too hard to overcome on your own, remember, you don't have to do it alone. Together we can rebuild our great Southland and make Australia proud again. Join us today at fairbusinessaustralia.com.au. Well, welcome back to another episode of Fair Go, a podcast by the people, for the people. I am extremely blessed and excited to have the wonderful Sarah from New Earth Cafe with us today. I heard Sarah and her partner Ben speak at a recent small business town meeting. We had well over 600 people in the room. Gosh, it was probably way more than that, to be honest. It was probably a couple of thousand. But Sarah from Sunshine Coast, tell us a little bit about your business and who you are and what you were doing pre-COVID.
Okay, thanks so much, Rebecca, for having me on. And it's always great to share some hope and share a message and just connect with all the other businesses and all the other people around Australia going through the same thing. So we are a health food cafe and marketplace store in Coolum Beach on the Sunshine Coast. My husband, Ben, and I have been running New Earth Cafe. We started it 8 years ago. During that time, we've just built a beautiful little hub for the community, and we have a beautiful courtyard outside where we have families and lots of children, and we open from 7 till 2 every day. And we've just what we're all about is creating a place for the community to come and connect and eat healthy food and just learn healthy habits. So that's what we've been doing for the last 8 years, and it's been a beautiful journey here on the Sunshine Coast. And we love living here. We live out at Ninderry, where we also have a yoga studio, and we do sound healing and breath work. So we really love the Sunshine Coast and the Sunshine Coast community. What we've been doing for the last 8 years.
So good. Absolutely love it. So that was BC before COVID. Talk to me about how COVID initially impacted your business. Now, I know you've got quite an impactful story recently, but how did you guys cope with COVID in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, with how I guess everyone went through the lockdowns, and so there was stages where we had a significant loss of business because obviously you could only do takeaway, and then we couldn't run the yoga studio or the breath work or the sound healing. So it was definitely sort of what we were used to doing was sort of cut in half, and we just kind of pivoted and shifted and managed, and we kept all our staff employed. We've got 10 staff members, and then Ben and I. And we just did the best we could. It was a bit of a struggle, and, we were kind of just hopeful that it would all get sorted sooner rather than later, but it just seemed to be so unpredictable. We kind of got pretty worried with the whole situation, and also just the amount of fear in the community, and a lot of people really worried for the future, and talking to a lot of other business owners who were, not sure whether they were going to keep running their businesses. And so it's been a very long and tiring and stressful last almost 2 years, I would say now.
Yeah, it has. And it's the fatigue that's really getting a lot of people. It's the continuing movement of goalposts. And up until now, I think there are more people not so much aware. Everyone was thinking that, okay, if this is a pandemic, then the goalposts kept moving because, the variants kept changing, and the science, the science is dynamic, and the science is dynamic, and the science is dynamic. But you, in your own particular business, you were adhering to the science is dynamic rules and what the government was telling you to do. But even adhering to those rules, you actually ended up coming a bit of a cropper, both you and your staff. So tell us what actually happened to you, particularly around mask mandates earlier in 2021.
Yeah, so July the 25th was a time where the mask mandates were back on the Sunshine Coast, and for myself personally, I have had a collapsed lung. I was in a car crash, and I've had more than 20 lung infections, and I was not very keen on putting a mask on, and we were doing the best we could at the business, and we had an interaction with police, the very first one on the 25th of July, where they came in and asked us if we had medical exemptions and why weren't we wearing masks. I believe someone probably dobbed on us or reported us. We are across the road from pathology and where they're doing all the COVID testing, so it was, it was a very big contrast to a health food cafe and then the COVID testing on the other side of the road. So someone obviously called the police on us, and the police came, and I explained to them, that I did have a health condition, that I wasn't able to wear a mask, and that it was pretty hard just talking to customers and running the cafe. And it's such a loud, busy cafe with blenders going and juice machines going and dishwashers going that, it was really hard for us to put masks on and work and not feel sick and have a headache by the end of the day. So anyway, the officer was pretty nice that time. He said, you know what? He goes, if you get exemptions from your doctor, that's fine. That's all you need. And so I had a staff meeting with the staff that evening. I said, look, guys, I'm going to go and get a medical exemption. I've already spoken to my doctor. He was really worried that I might get bacterial pneumonia from wearing a mask. So we went and got mask exemptions. 3 of the staff members chose not to, and they wore masks, but the rest of us, all for different health conditions, the 7 other staff members chose to go see their doctors and get medical exemptions. And so anyway, we had those, and the next time the police came in was a day later and asked us, why we still weren't wearing masks. I offered to show them our exemptions, our medical certificates, and they said no. And then that afternoon I had another visit from 2 more, I would say, older, longer-standing police officers who were sergeants. And they came in, and again, we had a chat, and they were really nice at that time. They said, oh, it's, so confusing, and do you even understand these mandates? And I said to them, honestly, no, everything keeps changing, and I don't really. But anyway, we've got medical exemptions. Would you like to see them? No, that's fine if you have medical exemptions. That's all. And then that evening I got a phone call from the same sergeant, and he said, I've checked it all out. You've got exemptions. It's all good. I hope next time I come to the cafe I'll be coming in for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, great.
And I thought, okay, great. God, it's stressful enough trying to run the business at this time, let alone having to, in the middle of whatever you're doing, stop and spend 20 to 40 minutes talking to police.
Yeah, and they always tend to show up during service as well.
Oh, and it's just so intimidating. I've got a lot of staff members under the age of 20, and a lot of them were really, really quite scared and worried. And it was hard for me at that time to even have a day off, because I was worried that if I did have the day off and I wasn't present and police came, that, they would feel so intimidated and so scared, and it just wouldn't be a nice vibe at the cafe and a nice feeling for staff or customers. So I ended up pretty much being there 24/7, and then by the 30th, it got pretty heated with police. So I thought, wow, this is all done. We've done the right thing. We've got exemptions, and police have not wanted to see them. We've offered to show them. So everything is good. We are abiding by these mandates, and we're doing the best we can. Anyway, on the 30th, I did actually take the day off. And I was called at 9 a.m. by a frantic staff member saying the police were here. They wanted to speak to me. I needed to get down here immediately. They basically demanding to speak to me. So me and my husband Ben got in the car, pretty nervous, and just, I've never had to deal with police in my life. I've never had to speak to a police officer. So there's always that bit of just fear and, gosh, what's going to happen, and why do I have to speak to them again today? So took us about 20 minutes. We got down there. They were down there. Very different feeling with them this time. They weren't nice at all. They were quite bossy and quite intimidating and demanding that we put masks on. And now there's a new direction that, staff who worked in hospitality had to wear masks whether or not they had a medical exemption, which I just didn't believe was true. Like, medically exempt means medically exempt. It can't just change.
Yeah.
So I very nicely just said, look, we have medical exemptions. And one of the officers actually said to me, are you mentally ill?
Wow.
That's why you have a medical exemption. And then I thought, wow, okay, they're not respecting me at all.
Wow.
They are choosing to speak to me in a way that is just not professional and not kind at all. And, yeah, that brought up even more fear, and so they said, well, we're leaving. If you do not put masks on your staff and yourselves, we will come back. They came back at 11 o'clock again, and they gave us another talking to. Again, I said, look, I believe that we are not committing any crimes, that we are not doing anything wrong, that we are abiding by the law, that we have done everything that we can do possibly to run this business in a safe manner. We've got this COVID safe plan. We had the little check-in on the window. We did the best that we could. Anyway, they said, look, we're going to come back this afternoon again. And if you have not got your staff to put masks on, we will be fining you and arresting you.
What?
And so, yeah, that was a whole nother level of anxiety and stress. And, I said to Ben, well, I cannot put a mask on. I do not want to put a mask on. I have done everything that I was supposed to do, and I have done the best that I could, and so I'm going to stand by that, and I'm not going to allow myself to be bullied and threatened, and I'm not going to let my staff or my customers be bullied or threatened. And so that afternoon at 3 o'clock, the police arrived. It was a very quick conversation. They said, so, Sarah Parsons, you're the owner of the business. Will you be making your staff wear masks? And I said, all staff members with medical exemptions, I will not be making them wear masks because I do not have the right to do that. I do not have the right to tell them to put a mask on when they have shown me a medical certificate. I do not have the right to endanger my staff at all. And I'm not willing to do that. And so they said, well, you're under arrest then. And I said, what am I being arrested for? And the police officer said, you are being arrested for not wearing a mask and not making your staff wear masks. So I was arrested. I'm happy that Ben filmed the whole ordeal because police that evening said that I was abusive, aggressive and violent, which is not true at all. So I'm glad that Ben got footage of that. Because they were just saying the most nastiest things about me on the news and in the newspapers and saying that I was, not a nice person at all. And I kept very calm and peaceful the whole time. So I was put into the back of a paddy wagon and I was taken to the Maroochydore police station where I was then fingerprinted. They took pictures of all my tattoos. They took a video of me spinning around. They locked me up for 4 hours in a cell. And yeah, when I got there, they actually said, you have been arrested for not wearing a mask without a medical exemption. That's what they said to me. And I just was dumbfounded. I said, but I have got a medical exemption. And then the officer that arrested me, there were 6 officers there, said, oh no, it's because she's a hospitality worker and that mask exemptions don't count for them.
So, okay, let's just recap what is turning into just the most gobsmacking, jaw on the floor story. So originally the police come in. Now are these different officers each time, or is it the same? Okay. Okay.
That was it was the same police station, Coolum Police Station. But, yes, over the 17 visits of police, because the story doesn't end there, I would say there was about 14 different police officers.
Oh, okay. So it started off really nice and you've explained the situation and they've said, okay, well, that's fine. Just go get an exemption. Okay, no worries. So you complied with that. You educated your staff and then those that chose to get an exemption did and those that chose to wear a mask did. And then you moved forward. Then you receive numerous other visits. And it sounds to me like they were getting more and more and more aggressive each time they came to you. And then, and then finally you are arrested. And even what you're being arrested for is up for debate amongst the officers themselves. They don't even know why you're actually been arrested.
Yeah, one yelled, because I asked again, he said, "You will be arrested for putting police lives in danger."
Oh, my gosh.
One point. I was just like, what is going on? Where am I living? Like, what is happening now? You know, like it was very, it was just very stressful at the time. I was put in the back of that paddy wagon, and they actually continued to talk to the other staff and give one of my other staff members a fine. And that time I was just sitting out in the sun in the back of the paddy wagon without the aircon on or the motor of the car on, and my husband actually said to the cop, "Is she going to be all right in there? It's pretty hot. And is there aircon?" And then they opened the door and just let me have some fresh air. But they were just, it was just really, it was a lot, and it was very stressful, and they did not care about what they were doing. They were really there to teach me a lesson, to be bullies. And that, I felt that was very sad, because they are the police officers of my community.
Yes, they're supposed to serve and protect, and it's a small community, as in
community.
It's a community. This is not Victoria.
No,
this is the Sunshine Coast, for goodness sake.
Yeah, so my staff were stressed. My customers were stressed and crying. It was pretty full on. And then, anyway, long story short, I was held for 4 hours, and during that time my husband called 3 times and asked when I would be released, and they said that they were going to keep me for 27 days. They said they were going to keep me until my hearing, where then my husband called a lawyer who called the police, and I was released within 15 minutes of that call.
So clearly they had no right to hold you, and they actually had no right to arrest you in the first place. Now, and I remember, so you've been held in a hot paddy wagon, not to mention that the stress on your poor husband, having to watch you be treated like that. I think that in itself is psychological torture, that they would choose to arrest you and not your husband.
I mean, he has said to me a number of times in the last 4 months he is so angry, to the point of where he will start crying, because he is just so angry, because he feels like he was so helpless in that moment. Yeah. And he did not know what to do, and he felt it so unfair.
Yeah. It reminds me of the William Wallace, when he's just got married to Murren, and then they use Murren against him, and they hurt her to get to him. And men, they knew what they were doing.
They did.
They definitely knew what they were doing. So they're flexing their muscles. They have no jurisdictional right to do so. You've already played by the rules, which are ever-changing, and the goalposts are always changing because, quote-unquote, well, the science is dynamic. So you've been put in a hot, paddy wagon, and then you've been taken to a cell. Now, you actually told me when we spoke about this that you were also put into a cell that was too cold, and they refused to get you a blanket.
Well, they took my shoes off, and they took my jumper off. So I was barefoot in leggings and a T-shirt alone, working in a hot cafe. That would have been fine, but I was freezing in that concrete cell, and I asked for a blanket 3 times, and no one even spoke to me. So no one said yes, no, or we'll get you one. It was just complete silence.
Were you given, like, a glass of water or anything last year?
Oh, there was, like, one of those little there was a toilet and a little water tap in there, but there was no way that I was going to be drinking that, no. And my husband actually did ask. He said, "Can I please get her a bottle of water? She's got a very sensitive stomach to town water."
Yes.
And the police just drove off.
Oh, my gosh. Look, okay, legalities aside, this is just un-Australian on so many levels. And I don't say that to propagandise the whole thing. This is actually un-Australian. That is just absolutely disgraceful. And I want to go back to that you felt like someone had dobbed you in. This is what happened in communist Russia. You didn't have to worry about the government. You had to worry about your neighbours who would dob you in, and then someone would come along and cart you off. And that's exactly what's happened. And now a lawyer has gotten involved. I mean, sorry, where was your one phone call? Aren't you allowed to have a phone call?
Look, they didn't even speak to me. They just wanted to scare me. When I stepped out of the paddy wagon, there was 6 male police officers standing there and 1 female, so 7 police to greet me.
Wow. I just can't even imagine.
Was like, that was quite a frightening experience to go through.
Yeah, absolutely.
And documenting and they're taking pictures of me and taking a video of me. I felt like a real criminal.
Yeah. And 15 minutes after the lawyer, you're released immediately. So, okay, PTSD aside, because clearly your staff are probably still traumatised, the customers are still traumatised, husband is obviously still traumatised because he's bursting into tears out of anger about what happened, and you're probably still traumatised from the way you were completely bullied and intimidated, and it's the fear of you're not actually sure what's going to happen once you're put in a cell. And
I knew that I'd done nothing wrong, but I also thought, like, if I've done nothing wrong, how is this happening to me?
Yes.
So it was just quite frightening. And I mean, after that, that happened on Friday.
Yeah.
On Monday morning, I was bringing out a table and I was surrounded by 5 police officers.
Again?
Yeah.
Why?
So, 3 Coolum police officers and 2 highway patrol officers, and they spent 28 minutes questioning me again. During that time, I actually asked my husband to come down to the cafe with me because I was just so shooken up. So he stood with me the whole time, and they questioned both of us. And I said, "What are you here for?" And the female officer said, "It's a courtesy visit." At that time, I had customers who messaged me and said, "We wanted to come in and support you, but we were too scared. There was so much of a police presence. We were so scared. We didn't know what was going to happen, and we did not want to come into the cafe." So, I could talk about how many times they came. They came 17 times in total. Some of the worst times was that time when 5 of them surrounded me. Another time was when 2 police officers, very tall officers, over 6 foot, stood inside the cafe right next to the drinks fridge, and every time a customer would walk in, they would say, "Where's your mask?" And if the customer wasn't wearing a mask, they would tell them to get out of my shop. So that was another time where it was quite shocking. They had at least 4 run-ins with some of my customers who were just like shocked. They said, "I've just been to Coles. I have a medical exemption. I've just been to Coles and I bought a lot of food and did my shopping, and now I've come into New Earth Cafe and I'm not allowed to come in here." And they would say, "We don't care, get out, you're not allowed in here." So they also arrested one of my staff members as he was leaving the cafe. They just handcuffed him and sat him down on the concrete.
They handcuffed him?
They handcuffed him, sat him down on the concrete and just bullied him for about 5 minutes and then let him go. And another time they arrested one of my customers who was just drinking a takeaway coffee outside. And they walked up to him. He was an elderly gentleman, and they asked him for his details, and he just said to them, "I don't have to give you my details. I've done absolutely nothing wrong. Stop being bullies and leave me alone." And they actually they grabbed him, dragged him to their car. We filmed the whole thing and told him to shut his mouth and be quiet. And they actually handcuffed him and searched him and got his details and gave him a $1,600 fine.
No.
And it was for not following a COVID direction, which is so vague, right? There's just, you don't really know what that is. So it was like, it was 3 months of just, wow. Just, you never knew when they were going to come around the corner. You didn't know what your day was going to be like. And you didn't know, what they were going to say or what they were going to try and get you to do. Or it was just really a lot of bullying, so intimidating, super stressful. I've lost 2 staff members since that time, actually, both of them, and the third one will be going at the end of this week. They said, "You know what, this has been such a big year. We love you, but we don't want to do hospitality anymore because there's no end to this. Mask mandates have come back in place now on the Sunshine Coast." And they are frazzled. They are, by the end of it, most of the girls were crying regularly, almost daily. And I would say all of the staff, and we are a beautiful family, like we all, have worked together for a long time, and all of the staff were just exhausted and frustrated and feeling super bullied. So it was a lot. Then the court case started. So I went to court 4 times.
So what did you actually go to court over?
So good question. So the first summons to court was for not wearing a mask and not getting my staff to wear masks. So I thought, you know what, I don't want to spend lots of money. I'm going to represent myself.
Right.
So I go to court on my own, not even allowed into the courtroom, even though I check on the website, there's exemptions are accepted. So I got to the courtroom, the front steps of the courthouse, and they sent me away, gave me a phone number to call, and then I had to speak to the magistrate over the phone.
Wow.
And he basically asked me what planet I was from and what sort of philosophical ideas I had in my head and who I thought I was. And after that conversation with the magistrate, I realised that I did need to get a lawyer. I'd never had to use a lawyer, and I just wasn't sure of the costs. And I was like, okay, wow, I've got to get a lawyer. So I ended up doing a GoFundMe, which got taken down within the day.
Really?
Yeah, so I did a GoFundMe for court costs, and we got about $2,000 put in that from customers and people around Australia, and that was frozen and taken down, and all those individual people had to ask for their money back. So GoFundMe was also not supportive of the cause.
Wow.
Getting so many beautiful customers and people just contributing to the legal costs, and we were very, very lucky. And, I think the community was so upset that this had happened. A lot of people know me. I've been in the community for 8 years. I do the best I can. I try and be a good person all the time. So a lot of people were like, this is just not fair. We're happy to help support you with your legal costs. And anyway, so the second appearance in court was with the lawyer. Again, we weren't allowed into the courtroom. The lawyer also refused to wear a mask. So everyone's going to be wondering, who the lawyer was. His name's Robert Greeley from Australian Law Partners. He's in Brisbane. I'm really glad that I met Rob and that he's helped me and been really, really supportive, and he knows his stuff. So he said, you're not breaking any laws. You haven't broken any laws. You've done nothing wrong. And he said that to the magistrate, and then they said, well, we're going to change the charge. So then it went from not wearing a mask to not answering a question.
No.
The police prosecutor asked for 9 weeks to let my lawyer know what the question was. My lawyer said, well, what's the question? She didn't answer. And they needed 9 weeks to get back to us on that one. So it was adjourned for 9 weeks. So this is the second adjournment. My lawyer said, Sarah, you've never committed a crime if you don't answer a question. This is just ridiculous. So anyway, after 9 weeks, they can't tell me what question it is that I didn't answer, and they want to change it again. They want to change the charge again, and if I don't accept to the charges being changed, then I will possibly be arrested again and recharged.
No.
So threatens that if I don't agree to change charges, that I'm going to be rearrested.
What?
Yeah, which, just so much fear comes up again.
Yes.
With that. It's gone on for so long now.
Yes.
Anyway, my lawyer just advised me. He said, you've done nothing wrong. Just agree to the charges being changed. It doesn't matter. Anyway, the next charge is not following a COVID direction. And so that was the third time in court, not following a COVID direction. They want an adjournment again because they don't know what direction.
And this is all taxpayer money as well. These police prosecutors, they're not doing this pro bono.
No. And so, this is after me having to take 3 days off work.
Wow.
Having to go to the courtroom and get my lawyer to drive up from Brisbane. Right? So then we're due to go to court, I think about 3 weeks ago now. That was my court date. Finally, we're going to court. Start of December, we finally got a court date. The day before the court hearing, the week before, I was offered some, just plead guilty and we'll drop charges, or just do this, we'll drop charges. And I just said no. I'd had enough by then, and I was like, I've done nothing wrong. I'm a good person. I don't deserve to have this happening to me, and I need to make a stand because this can't happen to other business owners. This is just ridiculous. Them throwing their power around like that. And so that evening I was called by the head prosecutor of the Sunshine Coast, and he said, we don't want to take you to court. We don't want to, you're a good member of the community. You're an outstanding person, and, we don't want to do this anymore. And I just said, I don't really believe a word coming out of your mouth.
Yes.
I don't trust police. You've lost the trust of our community.
Yeah.
I would like to know why I was treated in this manner and why my staff were treated like this and why the members of the public who dined at my cafe, like why were we targeted and bullied like that? And I basically said to him, if that's what you want to have a chat about, let's have a chat. Never heard back from him. And next morning the charges were dropped. So all charges were dropped and I didn't have to go to court anymore and it was all over.
Because you're such a good member of the community, which means between the lines we've got nothing on you and we're tired of trying to bully you because we know we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, so if I was such a good member of the community, why was I treated like that 17 times?
That is, I'm so angry. I can't be as angry as I want to be because I know I'm on a microphone and it'll blow this microphone, but I'm astonished and furious and like that this is Australia. Okay. So.
And you know what? I thought it was all over. So I was like, okay, God, bit of relief. It's sorted. It's done. They've dropped the charges. It doesn't mean that I've finished.
Yes.
It does not mean that at all. I want them to be held accountable for their actions. Okay. But, Friday night, so we're talking, today's Monday, 2 nights ago, my little brother came round to our house at 9:30 at night and there's a police car just parked shining its lights into my driveway.
No.
I couldn't believe it. So they're not finished. They have decided to come round to my own property, my private property, at 9:30 at night on a Friday night and investigate my driveway. What are they doing? What a waste of police resources.
This sounds like a flippin' narcissistic relationship where the partner is just determined to squash the other partner. How is this? Oh my gosh, I'm just speechless.
Said to me, what have you done? What have you done to annoy them, Sarah? And I said, Rob, I've never ever spoken to a Coolum police officer in my life or any police officer for that matter. I have not done anything to aggravate them or do anything because I've never had to have an interaction with any of them. Right. So, he goes, why are they picking on you? Like, what have you done?
Wow. Okay, so this is all over a flippin' mask mandate, which is not a law that you have an exemption for. So
I think it was really to send a message to the Sunshine Coast Coolum community to attack the community hub and to make an example of me and to scare the public into compliance.
Which really goes very far outside of the jurisdiction of serve and protect.
Yeah, that's what I truly feel in my heart, that was what that was for and that was what that was about.
So, okay, so you said it's not over in your heart. You're determined now to get justice for yourself and for your community, so you're going to see it through on your side. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And the lawyer thinks you've got to,
Absolutely. He said you can wind the clock back to the moment before they arrested you and everything they have done up until that now is being unlawful.
And
they know it.
Yeah, well, yeah, and this is a bit of a sensitive question, but how are you going to find the resources to carry out a legal battle of that Erin Brockovich magnitude? Because you're up against the QPS.
Well, so I've been very, very fortunate throughout this whole ordeal to have, first of all, we paid some of our own money for the start of this court case, and that will never be recovered. And then the community lended a huge hand, and then the court costs were actually paid for by Rebel News.
Fantastic, excellent.
Rebel News has done 3 stories on us, which you guys can watch on Rebel News on YouTube. And so and this is a really important thing, because I recorded all of these interactions, we had proof, right? And the Rebel News could use that footage and could get that message out and could really expose the behaviour and the bullying tactics of police, because the media was saying that I was aggressive, abusive and violent, And that was absolutely not true. I was not aggressive, abusive, or violent one time. And it just shone the light on the actual truth. And so that was a huge help. And Rebel News has fightthefines.com.au, and a lot of people helped there. And there was a lot of donations made to help with our court case. And so that the rest of that court case was then paid for by Rebel News. And now we've got a really lovely gentleman from the community who's stepping up to help me pay for the next stage.
Wonderful. And that is where Aussie mates help Aussie mates. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm
very lucky, very blessed.
Yeah, that's great. That is really good. And really what you're doing is you're setting a precedent. You're an example for the rest of small business owners. Now tell me, all this stuff has gone down over mandates, and most small business owners won't have had any issues over mandates. What has happened since the 17th of December, when you're now not allowed to serve unvaccinated people either because, quote unquote, well, it's the law, even though it completely comes under federal law, which is Biosecurity Act and Privacy Act and discrimination and all this jazz. What's happened since the 17th?
Well, look, since the court case and I guess a lot more of the wider Sunshine Coast community realising what had happened to me, I've been in contact and, connected with a lot of business owners and a lot of the Coolum business owners, and we just don't want to discriminate, and we will not discriminate, and we will not segregate. And a lot of the Coolum community, the cafes and the stores are now standing with me. Which is really nice to see, and to not be alone. And I think that's a really important thing, to hold the line together. We are only doing takeaway only.
Yep.
But that means every person is welcome, and we have outdoor seating, which means every person is welcome to sit there, and all people are welcome, and no one will be questioned, and no one will be made to feel like a second-class citizen, and no one will be bullied. And we will not be asking for proof of anything, because that's not what our job description is, and we do not have a right to do that. So that's how we're getting around it. And look, we have so much support from the community, and we have so many beautiful customers, and we just want to create a space of joy and happiness and connection at this time, because that is what is missing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And it's divide and conquer. And conquer. And, gosh, it's just so much to take in. You've just been through so much, and it's still not over. And this is, the government is so responsible, and the media is responsible as well. I mean,
absolutely. The media, shocking. Just shocking.
They need to be held account for this. They really do. Once this is all over, people need to lose their jobs over this.
Yeah, defamation. I mean, the thing that was said about me and the abuse I got from the wider public who do not know me at all, like that I should be burnt on a stake like a witch, that I'm a horrible person, that I am the reason for blah, blah, blah. You know, it was ridiculous. I mean, I'll tell you, we had at least 80% beautiful comments, but we had people go on and do Google ratings on the business and bring our ratings down and write nasty comments. And it was just really, really sad as well to see how the media is able to control the masses and run a narrative that is so untrue and get away with it.
Yeah, and that is what needs to happen out of this, is that they can't get away with it. We actually have to take them for damages because COVID is what it is now because of the media. There's no way the government could have fearmongered and spread the message that they've spread without the media being complicit at best and in partnership at worst. And it certainly seems to me, watching it, the few times that I do actually happen to be in the same room as a television, and I get irate, so I have to leave. But they are absolutely in strong partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what was most shocking to me was I would go to the courthouse and my husband, who I live with, who I've driven in the car with, due to COVID was not allowed to accompany me. However, the media 3 or 4 different media entities were allowed to be in the courtroom. So I wasn't allowed to have a support person, my husband, but they were allowed to be there.
That is just disgraceful.
Within 2 or 3 hours, they were allowed to release whatever they wanted to release, take pictures of me, whatever they wanted to do. And it was encouraged. You know, police would release that information immediately to them. And it was almost like I was up against just a huge monster.
It really is a spiritual battle. It's a strong religious movement, this woke, COVID's going to kill you. It's a corrupt judicial system, a corrupt media system. There are certain members of the QPS who are either getting swept up into it or are corrupt as well. I personally clashed myself on the 17th with a couple of police officers where I was staying in a tiny seaside town that have been in the community for 20 years and they're throwing their own community members under the bus. And I'm like, what is going on here? And they know they're doing the wrong thing. Did you feel like the police officers, because my police officers, it was either stony-faced or couldn't look me in the eye. Did you feel like the police officers at some stage were really pushing hard against their own conscience?
Yeah, look, I mean, I had one police officer who could not look me in the eye the whole time, and I actually had a lot of compassion for him. I knew that he was just, he just wanted to disappear into the concrete. He did not want to be there. His whole body language said it. He was just so embarrassed. I could just tell he did not want to be there. He never spoke to me. He never looked at me. He just had to. He was made to stand there to intimidate me, and he just did not want to be there. But sadly, and this is what I found the hardest to deal with, is sadly, most of the others felt like they were doing the right thing and were speaking to me as if I was a dirty criminal and as if I was someone who needed to be punished, you know, which was really worrying because I was just like, you guys are human beings that live in a community. You know who I am now. You know that I don't have any previous criminal convictions. You know that I'm just a cafe owner here to run a cafe. And you're okay with treating me like this. You think it's okay. You're willing to do this, you know. That was what was the most worrying for me.
Yeah, because, you know, how could Nazi Germany ever have happened? Well, look at it now. This is how it happens. Yeah. This is how it happens.
My mum's Swiss, so I spent half my life in Switzerland, and my mum lives here now in Australia, and she's very worried. She said this is how it all began.
Yep. Yeah. And the thing is that people that don't see that, they get very angry when you make statements like that. How dare you compare Australia with Nazi Germany? It's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. I've been vilified myself a few times by other small business owners that I'm trying to help, saying, you know, just, it's the matrix. You're either awake or you're not.
Yeah, and, you know, sadly, it's like when we were at that business meeting, one of the speakers said, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And Ben actually really had it on his heart for the whole time. He's like, you're damned if you do, empowered if you don't. Because it's all about stepping back into your own power.
Yes.
You know what's right and what's wrong. And just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean that you need to follow and do it.
Yes.
Because that is the problem.
Yes.
That, you know, stand in your power, recognize how powerful you are as a person, as a family, as a couple, as a community, and stand up for what is right.
Yes. And we have to step into our own power as leaders in our own entities, because we can't wait for the Tanya Jenningses, the George Christensens, the Ricardo Boseys. We cannot wait for them to save us. We must stand up and save our own communities and the next generation.
Absolutely. Like, what do you want your children to see? You know, what is going to be happening if this is what we're allowing to happen now? It's a test. How far can they push you?
Absolutely.
How much can they get to do? What will you be compliant with? You know, it's like, it's not okay.
No, and you're absolutely right. This is a test. And I firmly, and this is just my personal opinion, but I firmly believe that we're moving towards a social credit system if we don't push back now. And once it's all done, it's really, really, really hard to wind things back. So
absolutely.
We're on a knife edge now. And what you're doing is you're poking the beast. And it's actually got nothing to do with COVID. It's everything about control and manipulation and coercion. Mm-hmm. And whether people see it for what it is or not, if it really was about the flu, then how come they're getting so close to you to intimidate you in the first place? If they were really worried that you might have COVID, why aren't they keeping their distance?
Well, if it really was about that, why is on the 16th everyone can eat at my cafe and on the 17th they can't, Yeah. And why are the borders open, and why are, there's so many questions that I have that they just don't make sense.
No, they don't make sense at all. They don't make sense at all.
No, at all. You can play the pokies, you can go to the bottle shop, but then you can't go to a cafe. So it's ridiculous.
It is absolutely really ridiculous. And I think more and more people are waking up, even people who have run with what I personally believe to be the narrative for a long time, and now suddenly going, well, hang on a minute. I towed the line for you for 18 months and now you've moved the goalposts again. You're getting a lot of people now that are double jabbed, and why do I now again have to wear a mask? I'm double jabbed. Oh, and now I have to get a booster in 3 to 6 months. Well, why do I have to do that? Because I just went and did everything else. And so even now, people who, this was about COVID and this was about keeping each other safe and, we were doing it for the greater good. Now people are going, well, okay, well, how many more times are you going to move the goalposts?
Exactly. So, yeah, and I've noticed that in the community as well. After this happened to me, a lot more people just went, we've got a lot of people actually said to me, it was thanks to you being arrested, sorry to say, that I actually woke up to everything.
Really? Wow.
Because I know who you are as a person, and I know you wouldn't have been aggressive, violent or abusive, but the fact that the media was saying that, I thought, what else are they lying about?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Hiding, misrepresenting, misinforming, lying. Let's just call it for what it is. It's lying, and they do need to be held to account for it. They really do. So what does, gosh, there's so much to digest. What does life look like on the other side of when you are successful and you win this case? And this is probably going to be a long game for you. They're going to stretch it out because they can, and they're going to use taxpayer dollars to do that, which is just disgraceful. But what does life look like for you whilst you're playing the long game? And on the other side of the long game, how do you see your own life being better and a rebuilt Australia? What does it look like for you?
Well, look, I still feel very, very blessed to live here on the Sunshine Coast. I have a beautiful partner, a beautiful family, a wonderful community. So I'm very hopeful. And, I have my own practices. I eat very well, and I make sure I get enough sleep, and I do my yoga and my meditation, and I am okay with this taking a long time. I think that I am willing to hold the line, and I want these people who have just been bullies and been really nasty to be held accountable so that this doesn't happen again to someone else in the community who maybe possibly doesn't have the toolkit that I have to cope with it, that doesn't have a mental breakdown. Because I'll tell you what, this is the first time I've had to go to a psychologist, and she said to me, a rating of PTSD is 21. She said, you're at about 37. Wow. And I still feel really good. I do. And, I still have a lot of joy in my life, and I'm still very happy, but I do notice that I need to sleep more, and that, I might be a little bit more reactive and absolutely a bit more stressed. But I go into nature. I have my beautiful animals. I do all the things I love. I keep running the cafe because I love to share healthy food with other people. And so I am hopeful that good is going to come out of this. And I truly believe that whatever happens to you happens for a reason. And I believe that the universe always does have your back. And that sometimes people are used for certain things because they can handle it and they can make a difference.
Wow.
I don't I feel like I've learned so much from this experience, and I wouldn't say, erase it all, and if I could wish it all away, I wouldn't, because I've grown a lot from this, and I've really been asked to step into into my power and what I think is right and wrong. I feel like it's such an important question to ask yourselves at this time. And I feel like it's just, it's been really important for me and for my husband to go, what sort of world do we want to create? What sort of world do we want to contribute to? How do we want to show up in the world? And what sort of offerings do we want to share with the community? And are we in the right community, and are we surrounded by the right tribe of people? And I think all those things for us is a yes. And so we will just continue to stand here on the Sunshine Coast in Coolum and feel completely supported in that as well.
Wow. Oh, so good. And just before we finish up, and I would love to check back in with you in a few months' time to find out how's everything going.
Yeah.
But before I let you go, if you had to just give one takeaway to the business owners or the community members that are listening to this interview now, what would you say to them? A marketing tip, or a COVID tip, or a lifestyle tip, or mental health? Like, what would you like to say to whoever's listening right now?
I think the reason why I was able to handle all of this was because I do look after myself. I eat well, I get enough sleep, and I look after myself. And as a business owner, you go 24/7 and you can get stressed and tired and fatigued. And I think that was one of the most important things, is that I knew, there was some times during this couple of months where I just said, I need to sleep all day. I need to have the day off. I need to remove myself from the situation.
Yeah.
And it's important, like, make sure your cups are full and you are well, so that you can stand in your power and so that you can hold the line, and also make sure that you film everything.
Yes.
That's been a really big lesson for me. Film everything, because that is your way of making sure that the truth is told.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Oh, Sarah, it's been, a pleasure. And yet, even just listening to what you've gone through, I feel fatigued in and of myself just listening. But at the same time, I feel so energized knowing that there are so many leaders in the community like yourself that are willing to come under the pressure and go through the pressing that you've gone through for the benefit of the community on the other side and for the next generation. And together we are strong, and together we can rebuild our nation. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, because we've got a lot of stuff that needs to be rebuilt. Our educational system, our judicial system, our political system, media and the entertainment. Like, there are a lot of things that we have to win back. But yeah, talking to you has just been so awesome, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with you again in the new year. Is there anything else that you would like to leave the listeners with before we sign off for today?
I guess we're not alone. There's so many of us. So just find your tribe and stay connected and look towards a future that you want to create. Stop focusing on fear. And start focusing on what you want this world to look like. And I think that is so important. They want us to be stuck in fear and to keep worrying and looking at all the things that they want us to look at. And it's really important to just unplug sometimes and call in a future and choose how we wish to feel in every moment and create a better world together, because there's lots of us.
So good. Yeah, we're not the fringe dwelling minority.
No.
Even though the media keeps going on that we are, we're not.
Yeah. No, we're not. We aren't.
No. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I really look forward to interviewing you again. Blessings on you and your own for Christmas, and we'll speak with you in the new year.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thanks for having me on, and lots of love to all the listeners out there. Thank you.
Have you got an inspiring story to tell? Register your business now for your chance to be featured on our Fair Go podcast. Ready to lend a helping hand? That's great. You can chip in through the website. Remember, 100% profit goes directly back into local small business. Together, we can rebuild this great Southland for ourselves and the next generation.
Go to fairbusinessaustralia.com.au.